Welcome into 5 Wide Fantasy. Today's video must start players on OwnersBox for week 15 of the fantasy season. For you guys that are still playing and still in your fantasy playoffs, there could be some players of value that you should start this week. But as well, if you're playing DFS, if you're eliminated from your fantasy championship and you need to keep playing some fantasy for these final few weeks of the season, you can do that over on OwnersBox. It's a great way to support us and the channel as well. We're going to give you 2 free entries with DFS 10 and Lightning 10. We're also going to match your first deposit up to $500. So the link to sign up is down below in the description. We'll get into some of my favorite plays for this week. If you guys are new, be sure to subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed. Let's get to the Sunday Smash contest for week 15. We also have a Saturday contest as well available on the platform if you want to get in on 3 games on Saturday, but we'll be looking just at the Sunday only contest here. I always like to start with the quarterback position, and there are obviously, being that we've got a big slate of games here, there's a lot of options here, especially at that high price point. A few that stick out to me: Justin Herbert against the Titans. The Titans are brutal against the pass, but terrific against the run, and they are going to cause some problems for Herbert in terms of their ability to pressure the quarterback, so that could leave a question mark. But regardless, we're probably going to see 50-plus passing attempts for Justin Herbert in this game, and he doesn't have much of a tendency for turning the ball over, so you can get some good volume, probably see him exceed 300 passing yards, and should see a good fantasy production from him, which is a nice one to look to. Other ones that you could go to as well this week that stick out to me, I'm looking at Mike White, who I've talked about in our waiver wire video, and a lot of people have asked questions about who to start, sit at the quarterback position. I love Mike White this week. Going against the Lions have been terrible against fantasy quarterbacks. White has seen tons of passing volume lately, ever since he was entrenched as the starter. Definitely think he can give you a great floor this week as well. Some others that we're looking through here, Desmond Ridder, I have a lot of question marks as to what his role will look like in his first start. I'm not really looking to go his way. A few others: Dak Prescott does have a good matchup against the Jags secondary. That could be one to go to as well. I do like that a fair bit. But honestly, the 2 I really like are Herbert and Mike White. So those are the 2 I want to go with in the quarterback spot. And then, of course, as you guys know, we do have a super flex position with OwnersBox. So that makes it available to have 2 quarterbacks in the week. And of course, you have to stack them. And who better? My favorite play this week, by far, Elijah Moore. His price dropped even further to $3,900, despite the fact that Corey Davis looks to be absent. We've got Elijah Moore finally building up in terms of his routes run. Last week, he saw 9 targets. It's a mainstay in all of my lineups this week is Elijah Moore. The Detroit Lions allow over 20 fantasy points per game to the slot, and Elijah Moore is running over 65% of his routes from the slot. Smash play on Elijah Moore this week, absolutely. Now, who do we go to at the wide receiver position from the Chargers? I would go with Mike Williams. Obviously, Keenan Allen has had some great volume since his return, but the thing is with Mike is that he has the better potential to find the end zone, and that's what I need. I need big performances and finding the end zone, and he's a guy that can find the end zone once, potentially twice, considering how much they'll be throwing the ball in this game, and it'll be especially so in the red zone. And Mike Williams found the end zone last week. I expect him to do it again this week, so I love these 2 stacks to start things out. And then from there, let's go and look at some of these cheaper options on the week at both the wide receiver and wide receiver and running back spot. Kenneth Gainwell, I love him as a cheap play. He's not quite as cheap as I'd like, $4,600, but in a matchup here against Chicago, where this is a very positive one for their run game. I believe the Bears are like 30th in fantasy points allowed to running backs. And Gainwell, we've seen in the past, steal some of those carries, steal some of those opportunities from Miles Sanders. And in a game against Chicago, where they're significant favorites, we could see him late in the game getting a little bit more volume as they keep Sanders on the sideline in a game that I expect them to be leading plenty in. A few others that I really like this week. Jalen Warren's a sneaky one against Carolina. Carolina's been much better against the pass than the run, and the Steelers can't have a lot of faith in Mitch Trubisky right now after last week's performance. So we could see the Steelers keep this ball on the ground a lot, and we've seen them be willing to get Jalen Warren some reps here and not push Najee into being just every single down on the field. So he's an interesting one as well. Chris Moore, as we look to potentially another week without Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks. Moore, we saw have a big week last week. Him and Philip Dorsett, definitely some cheap options that have some potential to play this week as well. Who else do we have here? There was a few others that I know I noted before we hopped on here. I think these guys were actually really cheap. If I'm looking for the running backs for the Patriots, Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong Jr. are both 4K. Ramondre didn't practice. Damian Harris, I don't know if he'll be available either. I would definitely look to Pierre Strong against the Raiders' pet run defense that's not been good this season either. So those are a few that stick out to me, most at the running back spot. So I want to start there with going with some cheap options at the running back spot and even at this wide receiver spot as well, but to open up some salary and be able to spend on some of these big time players. So let's start with Pierre Strong. I do think that in this matchup, it lends itself to the Patriots finding success on the ground, and Strong was the most efficient between him and Kevin Harris, so I do give him the edge there. So I'm going to go with him. That opens up some salary at some other spots. So we're looking at 5.7, 5.8K left per guy. So I like that there. The other one I mentioned to you guys was Kenneth Gainwell. Could be a good play as well. Where is he at? 4,600. So he could be someone I go to as well. Let's go first. Let me look at the tight end spot because it could also be somewhere to save and be a little bit cheaper too. Man, we're getting burned with some of these tight ends, especially Andrews, but he's not here on the slate, so that's good. Evan Ingram off the big week. I don't know if it's going to be as big against Dallas's defense. Greg Dulcich, though. Greg Dulcich, we added him on the wire to be able to play him this week in our season-long leagues. I think you got to play him at 4,200 here against Arizona, who's the worst fantasy defense against tight ends, giving up over 70 yards a game. We saw Hunter Henry have a pretty good outcome last week for the Patriots. So give me Greg Dulcich at 4,200. Definitely like that. Conklin's also a good play at 3,800. We've seen Okongwu have a few good weeks as well. Cade Otton, not bad either, in what I expect to be some high passing volume for the Bucs. So there are some other cheap options too. So definitely have some good 4K, less than 4K options at tight end. So again, now we're at 6,300 per with a running back spot and two flex spots to fill. So higher priced options. Who do I like this week? I really like Keenan Allen. I mentioned Godwin could see good volume. I'm not going to go there, but he could see good volume. Connor could see good volume. Alvin Kamara is one of my favorite plays. So the Saints are 4.5-point favorites. Mark Ingram was stealing 35% of snaps the last couple of weeks. He's out for the season now. David Johnson looks to be his replacement. I don't think David Johnson will be as involved as Mark Ingram was. And in games that the Saints have won this season, Kamara's averaging 22 fantasy points per game. And they're 4.5-point favorites against Atlanta, who's making a QB change as well. I like the Saints to win this game, and I like Kamara to be a major beneficiary in that. He's one of my favorite backs on the week, so I think no-brainer at 6,200 in that matchup. So I really like going with Kamara there. Who else do we have in plus matchups that we really do like? I mean, I can't play. I could go triple stack of Mike White, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore. I'm not going to do that, but he's not bad either. We're getting pretty low here in price. I do like Najee. Like I mentioned, with the same kind of goes for Najee as it does for Jaylen Warren. But let's see, we got 64K left. Who do we like at some of these higher priced looks? Derrick Henry. Man, I don't want to do it against the Chargers, but the Chargers' run defense had a huge bounce back last week. I don't think it lasts. He would be someone I'd play. Yeah, let's go. I'm going to go Henry. And then that leaves us with what? Still 5,700 for this last spot. So we still got a good amount of change here. For the other flex spots, I'm going to go just filter by wide receiver because usually at this price is where I like wide receiver more. Josh Palmer and Marquise Brown. Palmer on a downswing in terms of his role. Marquise Brown in a very tough matchup. Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Cooks. Man, I don't like a lot of these wide receivers. No. I do not. Okay. Let's see running back. Pacheco. Yeah, I think Pacheco would be the best play here. Yeah, I definitely think so. Okay, let's go Pacheco. Pacheco, 5,700. Houston, dead last in fantasy points allowed to running backs. These are the most running backs I've ever had in a lineup. What if we went with, if I dropped Pierre Strong, what would I have at 4K at wide receiver? We could probably have either of the Texans. Moore's up to 4,300. You could have Philip Dorsett as well. But I think I like what we have here. I think I like what we have here. So stacking Justin Herbert with Mike Williams, stacking Mike White with Elijah Moore, and then getting a bevy of running backs in here in Pierre Strong, who I think is very underpriced. If it turns out that Damian Harris is healthy, I'm definitely going to make a change there, and I might go to a guy like Philip Dorsett, like I mentioned. But him, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Isaiah Pacheco, and then a tight end, Greg Dulcich. So if you guys haven't played, if you haven't entered an OwnersBox contest yet, like I mentioned, you sign up, you're going to get up to $520 worth of bonuses that we're going to be able to hand over to you once you sign up and deposit. In the top right corner is the add promo code button for a DFS contest, a $10 DFS contest, promo code DFS10. If you haven't played Lightning Lineups yet, our new DFS game we introduced this season, you can use promo code Lightning10 for a free entry there. It's like a fantasy slot machine. Ton of fun, especially in these primetime slates as well. So if you guys haven't checked us out, go sign up. That link is down below in the description. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and as always, we'll see you on the next one.